Hey guys, it's Turtle here, back with another Ember Knights video. In this video, I'm doing a Doom difficulty co-op run with MrCat, and the strategy that we're using is that one person is a support, which is MrCat in this run, and I am the DPS. And as the DPS, I'm using the freeze build that I used in my current world record any percent solo run, which is Brittle Scepter, Onyx Raven, FrostBite, and Chakram at the beginning. And then the goal is to get Chilling Wind and FrostBites. So you want to get your FrostBite up to level 3 if you can, and Chilling Wind basically gives you a big AoE damage. So the build works by use a skill. When you perfect that skill, it will freeze all enemies that skill hits, and when you freeze an enemy, FrostBite will deal 25 to 75 damage. Depending on the level, it goes up by 25 per level with a max level 3. So you freeze the enemy, it deals damage. And then if you get Chilling Wind, which hopefully you get, you kill an enemy with Frost, or inflicted by Frost. That enemy will cause an aura around it, which will freeze nearby enemies. And that freeze will also cause the Frostbite damage. So you can create massive chain reactions and kill massive groups of enemies very, very fast. Now, we didn't get Chilling Wind in this first Relic selector, so we got Chronograph and Call to Arms. However, now we know that Call to Arms does not scale with Relic damage, so it does not help this build in any way, really. Also, MrCat was going for a burn build. He was using the sword with the Ember Blade, which when you're above 75% HP, your attacks will burn enemies. So he's using Combustion Stones, so he can deal more damage on every single hit. Now, my build scales by leveling up Frostbite, and you use other freeze relics, such as Bruma's Ring is okay here. The Arctic Axe is not good because enemies will not survive very long. And Chakram and Arcane Bolt are the best skills for this build because you can get them back very fast. And Arcane Bolts, when you perfect it, it gives you 5 shots, 5 Arcane Bolts, instead of the 3 default. And Chakram, when you perfect it, will bounce around more enemies and deal more damage. Overcharged Gauntlet is also a really good relic for this because when you crit, you recharge 1 skill. Or not recharge that skill, but you recharge 1 refresh for that skill. As you can see here, we just melted this mini-boss. I'm pretty sure I missed a whole bunch of perfects here, so it wasn't as strong as it could have been. Now, we found Glacier Necklace in here, which will give you 1 more damage interval of Frostbite every time you use a skill. So it is pretty good here. We are debating on taking it or not, and or who should buy it. I think we ended up making Cat buy it for us because he had less gold, so that I could spend it on a higher value relic. And we got Chilling Wind after he rerolled, so I quickly bought that, and now our build is pretty much complete. Now, Cat was debating on rerolling again. He did decide to reroll again, and then I was checking out the relics, and I think we decided on buying the Razor Bangle for Cat, which we did. And now Cat had guaranteed crit on the first hit on an enemy. As you can see from us clearing this room and the previous room, that Chilling Wind is doing a lot of work. Like, killing 1 enemy with freeze, then just kills a chain of enemies with freeze. So, it created a super fast way to kill rooms and clear rooms out. Now, if you haven't seen any of my speedruns before, when you speedrun, you want to go the fastest route possible, and the healing rooms are free rooms, no time. Time stops in those rooms, so there's no time added to your timer. So it's a super fast room, and it's just a free room to heal up and stuff. Now, there's a couple other rooms that are like that. One is the shop, and then the other one is the Bob room, plus the Mimic King room. That's also the best room that doesn't have time. Now, we beat this room here and got the Relic Selector, the second Relic Selector for Area 1. I'm debating on which relics to choose from. I didn't have any rerolls here. However, I'm pretty sure we ended up on General Saber, which we did. Now it's Cat's turn to look at his relics. He chose Chronograph here, which reduces your refresh time on skills by 2. We got really lucky here with Scrixa, which is the default boss in Area 1, which is the boss that me and Cat have the most time and experience with. But it doesn't really matter because we just melted it with this freeze build. However, sadly we did not one-cycle it. I think we didn't one-cycle it because I didn't perfect one of the Arcane Bolt skills, which then caused us to not deal enough damage to kill it. If you've seen any of my other speedruns, we always get the care package because you're gonna beat each area under the 7 minutes. So in this stat selector, I chose the Wisdom gem because it gives you skill damage, and since I'm using a skill build, it's just the best one there. If I had a move speed option, I would have chose that. In between worlds, we get to look at certain stats that we had. So I out-damaged Cat by a lot, but that totally makes sense because I'm the one who took most of the relics at the beginning, and my build is the freeze build, which is the superior build right now. Overall, it's pretty cool to see different stats between worlds and just the different badges that you can get. Like, some of the badges that you can get is MVP, which guaranteed somebody gets. Then there's like Sponge, the person who took the most damage. And then there's some other ones like Perfectionist, like you perfected all your skills and stuff. But yeah, there's some pretty cool stars that you can get. In this first relic selector of Area 2, I got Titan's War Gear in it, which is a very inconsistent relic for the staff. However, it is a legendary, and the other relics that I had weren't too great. So I believe right now I was just debating on whether I should take it or not. And eventually I decided I'll take it, just because the legendary and the other ones weren't too good. So if we find a Bob shop, we can always trade it in for something better. Now after we killed this room, we had a little bit of confliction. I wanted to go for the move speed gem, and Cat wanted to go for the damage gem. The damage gem is objectively better on the sword, but I wanted move speed because being able to move through the rooms faster just makes my build better. Luckily here we get a Mimic King room next, which is a big deal. It's a free room, and it allows you, if you do the Mimic King challenge and win, you can get a relic selector and a skill selector, which propels you through the run better. Once again, if you've seen any of my speedruns, you'll know that I just instantly go for the minigame, which is where you wake the Mimic King up, and then you get sucked inside and you have to kill 15 Mimic chests, which the amount of mimics that you have to kill changes depending on the weapon that you're using and depending on how many people are in the run. Now sometimes we don't have enough DPS for this, however with the build that I'm using right now, the freeze build, the Chakram will actually destroy them. Like, it just does so much damage, so there's no worry about that. We just had to get enough mimics in order to actually complete the challenge. And as soon as we did, I just used my Chakram and instantly got it done. And by completing the challenge, we got a Relic Selector and a Skill Selector. So we opened up the Relic Selector, and I got these 3 options: Boneplate, Empowered Bangle, and Guard Scepter. I was really debating between all of them. They're all pretty good. Empowered Bangle is what I landed on. And MrCat got Vital Convergent, Stormward, and Brumous Ring. I do not think he has any rerolls at this point. So out of these 3, he just chose Stormward, which is pretty good if he gets a good lightning build going. So in this stat selector, I'm going for move speed. The faster I can move, the more damage I can deal with the Chakram, because the Chakram requires bounces between enemies, or between you and the enemy. So this mini-boss is going to be a very good showing of how good this freeze build really is. Sadly, he did jump there and had invincibility frames, but it's not like it mattered. He died very fast afterwards. Now we got a shop here. There's nothing too amazing in this shop, but I was debating on Glacial Light, just because then I could transfer into a freeze into a fire build. However, we chose against it. And I was trying to get Cat to buy me the Overcharged Gauntlet, which he did end up doing. And then he bought Combustion Stone. And then here I bought the pie, and I got him to slice it so I could deal, so I could heal for another like 2 HP overall. If you guys didn't know, pies can be sliced by the sword or an arrow. And it allows you to like just take little pieces of health if you guys are down only a little bit. And the way you make a pie is by burning an apple. Now another positive with this build is that you don't really have to fear for taking damage, because as soon as you use a skill, they all get frozen and thus they can't deal damage to you and move. So it kind of just makes the build super safe. Like usually we'd be a little bit scared, or not necessarily scared, but very cautious about the vanguards, but with this freeze build you don't have to be cautious whatsoever. Now I just quickly zapped some apples with the wand, and by doing that you get Apple Crisp, and that will give you one refresh, or not one refresh, one skill charge on both of your skills for that person who picks it up. Now we got Glacial Bruma, which is arguably the worst one. However, we kind of melted it. We probably could have one-phased it if I had all my skills, and if I had another Frostbite, because I think at this point I still only have one Frostbite. And by getting that second Frostbite, it would propel us into the run and allow us to deal way more damage. Now I got hit a bunch with these freeze waves, which is really annoying. However, we still clutched it out. The boss rewards here weren't too good, but I got a little bit of skill damage and some health, and Cat got some health and I believe some damage. Now we obviously got the skill selector here because it's speedrun. We're going to be under that threshold to get the timed care package. And once again, one of the options that I had was agility, so I took agility, and Cat got damage because he's the support and or the main damage to enemies that are like on the outer corners of the map. Now moving on to Whitesbury, which is area 3. Now these first few rooms in area 3 of Whitesbury are very easy. Since they're all the small little enemies, generally, it keeps it very simple and easy to just kill all of them in a row, especially with Chilling Wind in this freeze build. Sadly, we did not get a Frostbite here, so our damage is very low. Okay, this room is the champion, which This room is fairly easy if you have this freeze build. However, if you do not have this freeze build or a solid poison build, this enemy will definitely destroy you and deal a lot of damage. Now, after finishing this room, once again, a little miscommunication here. He wanted health, but I wanted skill damage because my build scales off skill damage pretty well. I mean, not as amazing as some builds, but skill damage definitely helps considering I still need that one more FrostBite to deal way more damage. Now, as we enter the shop, we're looking for a couple of key relics. Like bitter chisel that we have on sale right now isn't too bad. However, I didn't have enough money for it and Cat didn't realize that. So I was going to buy the stun powder for Cat and I was going to get Cat to buy me the bitter chisel. However, a little bit of miscommunication there and we did not end up doing that. He ended up buying the stun powder for himself and I ended up not buying anything because I didn't have enough gold. Which isn't the biggest deal because there will definitely be more shops in Area 4. And then I'll just have more gold there, so it's not that big of a deal. We got lucky again with good room RNG, and we got a Mimic King. So once again, we're just going to hit him and wake him up. The other way you can wake him up is hit the record player, and it'll also wake him up because it'll interrupt the song that he's listening to. Just a little bit of lore. Now once again, we gotta kill 15 mimics to complete this challenge. And so far we've killed half of them. Chests were coming down pretty slow though, so it was a little difficult to get all of them. There we go, and we completed the challenge. Which once again, by winning that challenge, you get a Relic Selector and a Skill Selector. That Relic Selector can propel our build very far. Although I got some pretty bad options, but Arctic Axe is going to be the best here because I'm not going to be killing enemies super duper fast. Now, Cat's relics that he got are pretty bad. Meteor is arguably the worst legendary in the game. And Burning Resolve could be pretty good on him because he's going to be burning enemies every single hit, which will then give him the 25% crit based off the Burning Resolve. However, we decided on him taking Meteor in case we found a Bob and we could just get rid of it and get a better legendary. Now, I almost forgot to zap these apples to get more skill charges, but I went back and did it. Now that we're entering the Area 3 boss, we have a good chance of it being Phantom. Actually, it's only going to be Phantom because we did not have the modifier on for the variants for Area 3 or 4, so Phantom should be a fairly easy boss. I just need to recharge my skills here and get him into a state of where I can just melt him with my skills, which sadly I just didn't have my skills up. I needed to recharge my skills faster before he got stunned. Overall though, it doesn't really matter because it was still a very fast fight. Once again, before we enter the next world, there's some player stats and awards here. We got Reckless and Perfectionist, while Cat got MVP, Focused, and Evasive. He had a couple of thousand damage on me, and he only took 1 damage, which is kind of funny because usually damage is taken in increments of 5, so it was a little weird to see. Well, we finally found our second Frostbite, which, by finding that second Frostbite, it just doubled our damage. And Cat found Spirit Shelter here, which we were debating on it being good or not, but I believe he took it just because we were going to find a Bob, hopefully, and give it to him. Now, as we move on to this next room, it's the Area 4 champion, and this champion is extremely strong. He has a lot of health and deals a lot of damage. Like, he's definitely a champion. Compared to some of the other champions, he's extremely strong. Like, the Area 1 champion is extremely weak, and the Area 2 champion is also fairly weak, as long as you can learn how to dodge his attack, where he just stabs at you. But the Area 4 champion is really hard. Playing on like high difficulties like demons, he is absolutely a run killer. In the stat selector, we had a choice between Wisdom or Agility, and we chose Agility because more speed is just beneficial for speedruns. It allows you to get through rooms faster, obviously. Now, onto this mini-boss. This mini-boss does not stand a chance with my freeze build. This freeze build is just way too strong. Like, just look at the amount of damage that I deal, and how fast that health bar went down. So after we rerolled, I found Glacier Necklace, and I instinctively bought it, and then I realized that I already had it. I know there's some red text when you go to buy an item, but I just was not paying attention to that. I was still thinking about how it fits into the build. But yeah, I did end up already having it, so Cat just picked it up. And since we couldn't buy the berry pendant, I bought the pie, and I made Cat slice it for me so I could heal for a little bit more. Now we go for the damage gem here because we're already over like 120 health each, which is quite a lot. Now we're moving on to the pre-boss stage, which has 3 meat and 1 apple. So I zap the apple to get an extra charge of my skills. Alright, moving on to the stats of this world, I got MVP, Explosive Finisher, and Perfectionist, while Cat got Focused and Hoarder. Area 5 is really a gamble on speedruns because if you don't get many champion rooms, which are 1 rooms with 2 enemies, then your run's can be a lot slower. Our first room was a 3 room, which is quite annoying because there's way more enemies and they're weaker enemies, so it just takes longer to kill them. The second seal was also a 3 room, which once again, it takes a lot longer than having a champion room, which is a 1 room with 2 champions in it. My build is built for more tanky enemies and or just a lot of weak enemies. So these rooms didn't take too long, but it still takes way longer than if we were to get a bunch of champions. Now, third room that we chose was a 1 room, however, it was not the 1 room with champions, it was the 1 room with multiple waves with some sort of modifier to the room, and this modifier was the fire on the ground, which isn't a hard modifier because it doesn't affect your movement very much because you can just always dodge over it, and it's not a big area of effect, so it's a pretty easy room. The final room was also a 3 room, so overall we had 3 rooms and 1 room, but the 1 room was the longest 1 room that you can get, so overall our RNG was not very good. Now we're on to the final area, which is the boss. And since we're playing in Doom mode, we are fighting Arc Practice, not Normal Praxis. So the fight should be a little easier because there's no run scene or chase scene. My build's definitely doing a lot of damage. We got him down to roughly half HP before he did his first phase, or I guess second phase, which is where he spawns in some of the mini bosses throughout the run. Now I almost die here, but I believe I get off enough damage. I was trying not to use my skills here because I wanted to save it for the boss. However, I died anyways, so I chose to just use the skills and move on. Which, if you saw that, the last third of the boss's health went down really fast, and that's because I used Chakram, then the Arcane Bolts with this freeze build, and the freeze build is just crazy damage to bosses. Now let's take a quick peek at our stats for this area. MVP went to me. I also got Hunger Strike and Sponge. Now here's our end stats. We finished with a time of 11:54. Now this time is a new world record for the any % Doom co-op. I'd like to thank Kat for playing with me. Now if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, and if you want to see more of my content, please subscribe so you never miss anything else.